Hello and welcome back to the Cartoonist studio, and congratulations, we have finally made it to just over 1,000 subscribers. Yes, let's go wild. It's exciting news. I know it's not many in the grand scheme of things, but you know what? I may not have 180 billion followers, which I fully expect one day to have, but it's a start. It's a step in the right direction. Every journey, said the great man, starts with the first step, or in my case, the first 1,000 steps. Let's keep it growing, keep sharing it, keep talking to people about it, and let's make it grow. Deal? Deal. Right, today's video. What are we doing today? Well, I'm kind of stepping back in time again, but not like the one I did a few weeks ago. This is me going back to the days when I worked for The Dandy, which was a UK children's comic. It no longer exists. Unfortunately, it went out of print, sadly. It just literally was beaten to death by video games and TV cartoons and comics that deal in sort of like, you know, the Disney characters and the Nickelodeon characters. It just literally smashed it to pieces. It's a pity. It's sad because it was a great comic. But so just before it ended, I moved on anyway, and I don't work there. I work for Monster Fun Comics now. Now, when I started to draw. Start again. When I started there, I was drawing a character called Beryl the Peril. Now, Beryl the Peril was an established character, been there since probably somewhere around the beginning of the comics history, the 1930s or 40s or whenever it was, and had been drawn by a succession of cartoonists. And the guy before me, a very fine cartoonist, he, due to ill health, had to give up some of his work, Beryl the Peril being one of them. I was asked if I wanted to do it. I leapt at the opportunity, and I was in the comic. And it was great. So I was drawing Beryl for a while, and the editor, a guy called Maurice Heggie, no longer editor there anymore, he had a new idea, or him and one of the writers, Craig Graham, had an idea for a skater dude, a new comic strip, which is quite rare in English comics. They tend to stick to the traditional ones. And they asked me to illustrate it. So I co-created this cartoon. And eventually, after a while, I wound up writing it as well. And it became very popular, extremely popular, in fact. It went into the top 5 favourite cartoonists in the polls, and it went up and up and up, and then eventually it was number 2, and then it was number 1. And then for a while, me and this other very talented cartoonist called Wayne Thompson, he works at the Beano now, doing terrific things over there, and he also is starting to work on Monster Fun with me, so we'll be back in the same comic here, which is great, because he really is he's a great guy and a very talented cartoonist. Go and look for his work if you can. Wayne Thompson. And so we were sort of, we were just like neck and neck. 1 month he had a cartoon called Jack. 1 month his cartoon would be on the top, and the next it would be mine, and so on and so forth. And we were both drawing the covers. We were like the popular cartoonist, I guess, of that era. And it all came to an end, and that's very sad. But the process I used to go through was I used to produce a page of artwork, and this is the page of artwork that we're looking at today. I don't know whether that comes through on the camera well, but I drew it this size. That's the size that was required for a British comic, slightly different to the American ones. And I do that in black and white. I then have it photocopied onto an A3 photocopier, A3 copy, sorry, bring it back, colour it in with watercolour, and send it off to the Dandy offices in Dundee, Scotland. And that was it. I'd forget about it. And then eventually Photoshop came along. They bullied me, and they did bully me into it. I started using Photoshop, and that was that. But I did enjoy the therapeutic relaxation of colouring a comics page in watercolour. Anyway, come right up to modern days. Someone said to me a while ago, why don't I colour the existing comics pages? And I've got a lot of them. Obviously, as you can imagine, over the years, I've produced a lot of pages working for the comics. So I've got probably near 1,000 pages probably downstairs for the various things I did. Why don't I colour those pages? Because I never coloured the originals, I just coloured the photocopy. They said colour the originals and sell them as original painted comics pages from the Dandy. So I thought that might be a nice idea. And I thought, whilst I'm doing it, why don't I video it and show you? So that's what we're doing today. Now, I'm not going to be usual sort of talking whilst I paint, because let's face it, it's going to be quite boring, and it is like watching paint dry, because I'll say, this is the flesh tint, you put it on the character here and here and here and here and here, and now we're going to do the red. This is very exciting. And now the blue. I'll fall asleep. It'll be very messy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slightly speed it up. And whenever I put some music on, obviously, and whenever I put new colours up there, I'm going to tell you either how I mixed them or what I mixed them with. I'll put that on the screen somewhere around here. And so telling you what the colours are so you can mix them yourself if that's the way you want to do it. And if something occurs to me, and I'm sure that I will tell some stories about working in British comics and the Dandy in particular. And yeah, that's what our video will be about. There'll be a little marketing advert halfway through, because you got to buy the books, because if you don't buy the books, we don't have the video channel. And I go bust, and that won't be very good. Because you are buying the stuff and you are buying me a copy, and I'm grateful, so grateful for those people that do that. It does keep me going, and it does keep this channel going. So if you want to get rid of the channel, stop buying this stuff. If you want to keep it going, support me. It's fantastic. Right, okay, so I'm going to go ahead, and I'm going to colour in watercolour, mixed watercolour gouache, shall we say, this page of artwork. And at the end of it all, it'll be a mess, but you'll see how I got to it. And if you like it, brilliant. Let me know in the comments below. Hit the notification bell, like it and share it. Share it. Let everyone know about the idiocy that goes on over in YouTube. They think it's quite normal. Let them, prove them wrong. Show them, bring them over here. We'll show what idiots are like. Right, okay, without further ado, shall we go and colour an existing comics page that used to be in the Dandy comic? Yes? Yes, let's do that.
I know I said I probably wouldn't be talking in this, but you can't keep a good old idiot down for too long. I will talk a little bit, maybe I'll tell some stories, and I know that having done the recording, there are certain points in it that I have talked whilst I've drawn. At the moment, I'm just looking at the video and just talking to you. Now I'm going through the flesh tint here. Now the way I get the flesh tint is, I can do it one of two ways. I either use cadmium red or vermilion red, and then I'll use cadmium yellow. Mix them together and make a nice little flesh tint. So that's all I do for that. And then the process I used to go through was I just pick one colour and go through the whole page colouring that. So the flesh tints, then the red, then the blue, then the various colours of the characters. Sometimes I do the background first. It just depended how I felt at the time. So yeah, that aside, we'll just carry on with the music and let it continue, go its own merry way. And I may very well come back a bit later. You know I will, because I can't shut up. Well, I'm back. You can't keep a good cartoonist down, or even a moderate one like me. Anyway, I'm back here to talk about the red. Now, for the whole of this page, I use cadmium red. I know I mentioned about vermilion before, but I stuck to the same red throughout, even if I was mixing the colours. Just a little point, in the olden days, when I was young and the dinosaurs chased us down the road and everything, all the cartoons were done in black and white. That's the British cartoons, that is. And after a while, they started to use spot colours, red, yellow and blue. I mean, why wouldn't they? Red, yellow and blue, mixed either together or as a group, could make any colour in the rainbow. But all of the characters of the Dandy that I can remember were either red, yellow, blue or a mixture. Like Hydra Beryl Apparel, she was originally red and blue. Molly Fliptrick, red and blue with yellow hair. I know the other characters on there had brown and they had sort of red trousers, but they weren't the main characters. So we tended to stick to this red, yellow and blue business. I think I mentioned Wayne Thompson, he did a character called Jack. That was again, I think he was the same as me. He was red, blue, and he had yellow hair. He stole my idea. You wait till I see him. And so that's what they did. Now I did the lettering for this comic. I did the masthead lettering, shall we say. When they went on to Photoshop and they tied my hands behind my back and they forced me. They waterboarded me until I said, okay, I'll use Photoshop. And they gave me this horrible masthead. I never liked it. I always preferred doing it the old way, which was this way, lettering by hand, because I used to be a sign writer and I used to enjoy it. So anyway, I just thought I'd mention that, and I will shut the hell up. I promise I won't come back. And the other thing is I can't keep promises. And enjoy the rest of the colouring. And I'll speak to you soon, no doubt. I will. I know I will. Go away. Come on, go away. Right, I'll do a little bit of talking now because this bit is important. I'm going to be doing the blue sky. So it's a large area of the cartoon, because if you look at the actual composition of the picture, the top panel is an open panel. It looks like it's a bordered one, but it's not. I've given the whole thing a complete border all the way around. And the top bit here is open, so you could do one of two things. You can paint it the blue sky, or you can leave it open, leave it white. This area here is different, we'll come to that in a second, but if you look at the bottom panel, it's effectively a large picture. You can see the trees go right up, and there's the sort of the leaf area of the trees, the tops of the trees, the canopy, and a bit of canopy down here, trees going up on both sides, blue sky, so on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it blue sky all the way down to the bottom. The problem areas are going to be here and here. Reason being is when you're doing a drip line, you have to keep it going. Because if you leave it for a while, and particularly with blue and red, they're notorious colours, if you get the drip line wrong, then, or you leave it too long, say I left it too long here and I completed all this bit, by the time I got there and carried on, there'd now be a line. And you want to try and avoid that when you're doing flat washes. So this area and that area are an issue, because you're okay coming along, say here, but the second you touch the top of the word balloon, you've now got to continue your drip line down here and down here at the same time. And this one's fairly easy because you bring it down, no problems until you hit the top of the hedges and the fence. And the same over here, the problems come when you hit Ollie's hair, because you've got to be going carefully around it like so, and doing a line here and doing a bit more and doing a line there and keeping these drip lines going. An even bigger problem here, you might actually be able to get away with this by just bringing it up to there and stopping it and just completing this bit. Because when I then do this bit, there'll be a tiny, tiny, tiny line there, and that can be lost. When it's reduced and put into the comic, it's lost. Unless you study the page, you're not going to notice it. So probably not so much of an issue there. And it's a lot easier. Here's easy, there's fine, so is there, and this down to here because you've got the leaf line. So you have to look at where the breaks are. This one, it's not as difficult as it looks, because you've got to bring it down here, round here, in there and down to there. That's okay because you've got this here. That's break, that's a natural break for you. So then you've got little ones here, and this is a separate section, and that's easy as well, and so is this down here. Okay, so you'll have seen already how I mixed the blue by just pouring some water and then just adding the blue to it and seeing, and just keep on using your little sampler paper over here just to get the right colour. I've got the right colour, and now it's time to go into the colouring. I won't be talking over this because I'll need to concentrate, and we all know that if I don't concentrate, I tend to fall over. So let's get on with the inking, shall we? Let's do that. Okay, so now we're coming to another similar situation as I had with the blue sky, and that is with the grass and the bushes. Obviously, and actually this area here, which is going to be like a mossy bit of the tree, so there'll be a bit of colour there, probably a brown, and this like a lime mossy colour here. That's okay. So what I tend to do is with grass, when you're drawing grass, shall we say, and there's scenery, there's stuff going on behind it, it tends to be sort of like, you know, darker closer to you, lighter the further away that you are. But you sometimes play with that. So what I will do in here, like for example, you've got the grass that comes around here, there, you've got the bushes here. You could just do it all the same colour and it'll be green, but to give the picture a bit more interest, it's better to darken the bushes. Maybe, now I'll come to this in a minute, the bushes will go darker. So I will give it a light wash of green everywhere, absolutely everywhere around here. And then I'll go back to it and do a darker version for the grass and the bushes and so on. On the bottom here, we have it effectively in 3 areas. 1, 2 and 3. And although I didn't finish it, that line should come over to about here. So whatever I do here, I will complete it over there. Now, technically that's further away than this. But even if it wasn't, I would want to make this area lighter so as it pops out the main character, Ollie. Central in the picture. We want to bring that out. These two, they want to be noticed, so I'll darken that area around them. So you notice the pop out and then you notice the darker area here. It's a trick of the light. But whatever colour I do here and here, somewhere in between, slightly darker than there, well, noticeably darker, but not massively darker than there, I will bring around for here and here. And the colour that I use, possibly there, will go here. And the colour I use here will go there, and then the darker colours for the bushes, and so on. So you're effectively balancing it off. But then you have the canopy of the trees, or tree up here. So what do? Well, you literally go somewhere in between probably, and it has to be dark enough to bring out this panel, but not too dark to detract from the panel. Do you see how difficult it is being an idiot? It's not easy, you know. It's not easy. It takes practice. Okay, so that's what I'm going to be doing. So I will be putting a flat wash of green over everywhere. That's all the bushes here, the grass, the canopy of the trees down here and here, and the grass along there. Then let that dry and start to build the layers up. there's some of you out there that like to see the mistakes. They don't like it to be all you just make out like artists just put the stuff down and everything's perfect, because it really isn't. You know what you want to do, but as you go along, mistakes happen. You don't mean them to, and you try and turn them into something good if you can. Now this is a mistake that's not a real issue. Like you'll have noticed that I have darkened that already. This isn't a case of shading. It was when I put the brown on Doug, this is Doug, when I put the brown on Doug's t-shirts, I thought, yeah, I think this wooden crate or whatever it is that Ollie has needs to go a bit darker. So I just literally went over the existing brown, which was this, which was made up of was it now yellow ochre and raw sienna, and more yellow ochre than raw sienna, because this is just yellow ochre. That's yellow ochre with a bit of raw sienna, so you can see the slight difference. And then when I came down to the bottom, once I finished the t-shirts, I thought this wall needs to be darker than that. So I then just put more raw sienna into the mix and created this. And then when I'd done it, I realised that Doug's t-shirt wasn't dark enough. So now I'm going to go over it again. Now, I've mixed the brown already. The brown I have mixed here. I'll see if I can show it to you now. I'll put a little bit of it on here, and you can see what the colour is there. And when that goes on top of that, it'll probably go even darker again, because it uses the colour underneath it to actually punch it out a little bit more. That's why I work in layers. I love working in layers. I just like to see the thing building up bit by bit by bit. Right, so mistakes made. Back on with the colouring, a darker shade for Doug's t-shirts, because Doug deserves it, because Doug's a good lad. Right, let's get on with that, shall we? Right, so the cartoon now basically has all the flats done, and we're now about to move into the shading and then finally the black solids. But before we do that, I think we should go and have a word from our sponsor, which is me.
When I was at school, I was dyslexic, although I didn't know I was dyslexic. I was also told by an art teacher that I would never be an artist. I'm useless. Teachers were like that in those days. So I thought, challenge accepted, and I became an artist. Found out a while later I was dyslexic, and that I'd been tested but never been told about it, and decided that I was going to write a book. So I taught myself to write, and I wrote a book. And it was called The Night of the Village Idiots, because they say write about what you know about. And after moving to the countryside from the city over 40 years ago, the one thing I know an awful lot about is village idiots. Let's face it, I'm one myself. So I wrote this book, and having finished it, published it on Amazon, I thought, you know what, this would have really looked good as a graphic novel. So I then set about the humongous task of producing the whole thing again, but this time as a graphic novel. And it turned into the 103-page story, The Night of the Village Idiots. I didn't change the name, kept it as it was. And I've also added a little bit at the end, which was a Christmas tale that I published on Facebook. The whole thing was originally published on Facebook, which I now no longer have. So all record of it is now expunged, as they say, by the Faceless Book team themselves. But a really truly great way of supporting this channel is to purchase the books that I write and illustrate. All the links, the universal links, are in the description below. But you'd be probably thinking, well, what's the book like? I mean, I don't want to just go and purchase something blank, do I? No, of course you don't. So you will have seen a few of the pages coming up as I've been talking. But now what I want to do is to flick through the book slowly and read you the blurb on the back, so you get a damn good idea of what this little bit of countryside craziness is all about, and why I'm so fond and so happy and love the characters from the village of Sleepy Hamlet. So, should we do that? Should we go and listen to me read the blurb whilst the pages slowly flick before your eyes? And if you like what you see,
you can go down to the description below and find the universal link for the book, hop onto Amazon and purchase yourself a copy. What could be simpler? And it's a great way of supporting me and this channel. And after that, should we go directly back to the video and find out what kind of a mess I'll be making of it? Yes, let's do this.
How could the removal of a family painting, a childhood fear of lightning, a storm of near biblical proportions, and a pub landlord's flu cause so much chaos? Simple. Add a dotty, half-wit lord of the manor, trap him indoors with his short-fused and volcanic wife, ignite the head cook's flatulent backside with a lightning bolt, place a moderately unhinged Bavarian in charge of the village pub for the evening, allowing her to sell her own brain-melting brew to a largely unprepared pub full of eccentric nutjobs, get those same residents to challenge her to an ill-fated drinking competition, and round the evening off with the mass hypnotism of the entire pub. The villagers of Sleepy Hamlet could never be described as normal by any stretch of the imagination. But tonight, even they've excelled themselves in the ancient art of village idiotry.
Well, hope you enjoyed that and you pay attention to it and rush out and support the channel. It's great. So we've got to work out where the sun is coming from, and I'd say it's coming from this way. So that's the shadings to come on this half. Sun there, shade this off. And to show how that works a little bit better, we will work on, say, Smudger, the character here. So the sun's coming from this direction. So he's going to have pretty much this side of his head is shaded. He'll leave a little bit around there, just a little bit around the outer edges on this side. Shadow through here, on there, and then down there. And remember that with any watercolour paint, when it dries lighter. So it might look harsh when it goes on, but it will dry. Okay, that's it. Let's get on with the rest. that's it. Now we're done, except to put in the black solids for the beanie. They're there. Where else? Solid this area here. In the mouths when they're open. A little bit there, and the border around here and in there as well. Here we go.
Did you enjoy that? I hope you did. Right, well, here we go. Here's the finished page. I don't know how that's coming over to you, but that's the finished piece of artwork. A3 on cartridge paper. I do it. You can't really colour it that well on Bristol board. It's a little too smooth for my liking. So I do it on cartridge paper, which has a little bit of it soaks it up a little bit more, shall we say. Right, so this piece of artwork is now going to go away to the framers. It's not going to be framed. It's going to be what they call double backed and bagged, I think. So they basically cut out the aperture, put the cartoon behind it, put another backing on it, so it's all nice and clean, and they then bag it up, and it's all professionally done. And that piece of artwork, that actual page, this page here, I'm going to be selling for £150. Now that is a bargain in anyone's book, and I'll tell you why it's a bargain. Because I never ever coloured the original artwork. I may have mentioned this before. I would photocopy the artwork, and then I would colour the photocopy and send that in to the comic. So nowhere in the world is there any hand-coloured comics pages that were used in the actual comic. There's nowhere in existence. Not private collections, nowhere. So the few that I'm going to be doing now are the very, very few that will be in existence. So £150, and that does include the mounting, is somewhat of a bargain, because there's nothing else like it out there. You can get the black and white pages, and I will happily put those out for about £40 to £50. And you think, well, that's a lot cheaper, but the colour brings it to life. And like I say, nowhere else will you see that. The comics companies don't have it. I'm the only person who has that, and if someone purchases it, then they are the person that owns it. Every piece of artwork is signed, so original artwork signed by the artist, coloured by the artist, as it would have been coloured in the comic. Right, if you're interested in that, there is an email connection to me on my homepage. Let me know and we'll sort it out. And if you like it, then we can bag it up, sort some postage out. It's yours, gladly. So yeah, that's that. Whole video done. Hope you enjoyed it. And I don't know what we're doing on the next one. We never know what we're doing on the next one, do we? That's half the excitement. I'm just as excited as you are, because then I find out what's going on. But until then, hope you have a wonderful fortnight. draw away. If you do stuff that you've used of mine, then send it in and I'll look at it and we'll review it. It'll be great fun. But until then, until the next video, have a great fortnight and I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Bye-bye for now.